Hi everyone, it's Will here. We're going to learn more about computers today.
Hi, it's Emma. Let's have fun today.
Hi everyone. Thank you for coming to MINPRO. We're talking all about computers today.
MINPRO.
Do you remember that we talked about how a computer has 5 devices? The computer's brain is the processor, the CPU. The control unit is the nervous system. Today, we are going to talk about the other computer devices. There are 3 more.
What were they? I remember the memory.
There are the input and output devices.
That's right. The storage device, input device, and output device. First, let's talk about the storage device, or memory. The memory saves the programs and data. Lots of little boxes for storing numbers, like scratches variables, are lined up. The boxes have numbers called addresses. The computer uses that number to look at and to change the contents. Looking at the contents is called reading, and changing the contents is called writing. The memory is like a book or notebook. The size of a box is a unit called a byte. It can store 8 digits of binary data. 1 byte can express 256 number patterns from 0 to 255. If the data has more digits, it is saved by combining several boxes, such as 2 bytes or 8 bytes. With 8 bytes, you can express up to 18 quintillion.
That's 18 million times a trillion. That's too big for me.
In addition to numbers, the memory saves text characters. Text characters store 1 character per byte. There are about 50,000 kanji characters in Japanese. Each character is expressed with 2 bytes.
2 bytes is a 16-digit binary, so how many is that in numbers?
256 times 256, so 65,536 bytes.
That's just enough space. There are sure a lot of kanji characters.
The number of boxes is called the memory capacity. The phrase giga that you often hear with smartphones represents 1 billion. 1 gigabyte means that there are 1 billion boxes. If you stuff text characters into 1 gigabyte, you can fit in 1 billion characters.
I wonder how many essays that is?
If you have 400 characters on an essay page, that's 2,500,000 pages. If one person writes 5 pages, that's enough space for 500,000 people.
I think my mom's personal computer has 4 gigabytes of memory, so that's enough for 2 million people's essays.
That's a lot of room. Do we really need that much?
Text is data that doesn't use much memory. But a photo uses up about 10 megabytes for each image.
That's the same as 10 million characters.
We can't only store 400 photos on the personal computer.
These MINPRO videos are pretty small, but each session uses about 100 megabytes. If the images are high quality, 120 minutes of video can take up more than 20 gigabytes.
They won't all fit onto the personal computer.
It's okay if all 120 minutes do not fit in. The computer repeats the process of inputting and displaying 1 minute of data, and then inputting and displaying the next minute of data.
I see. There's no need to worry.
When watching a movie on a DVD, the data flow from the input device to the storage device, the CPU, and then to the output device. I'll explain that later. There are 2 main types of memory, RAM, or random access memory, and ROM, or read-only memory. The RAM is a memory that can read and write quickly, like a notebook. The data is saved with the electrical power, so it disappears when the power is turned off. The ROM is a memory that can be read like a book but cannot be written into. The data is not lost even if the power is turned off, so it is handy for saving programs. For example, if you save a washing machine program on the ROM, the computer can read the data and start moving immediately when the power is turned on. There is a memory like a hybrid of the ROM and RAM. It is called the flash memory, or FROM. It can be written to, and the data is not lost even if the power is turned off. But, the writing speed is slow, about 1/100th of the RAM. The flash memory writes several million times a second compared to the RAM, which writes several 100 million times a second. The flash memory is found in devices such as USB memories. You may have used one before.
Well then, how fast is the RAM?
The RAM can read and write several 100 million times a second. The flash memory is slow and can write only several million times a second.
That's because the CPU is fast, right?
Exactly. Another device that can store large amounts of data is the hard disk drive or HDD. DVDs, CDs, and Blu-ray discs also store data, but they are called media, not devices.
My daddy simply calls them discs.
They are often called that because of their round shape.
Why are there so many types?
That's a good question. RAM is suitable for fast reading and writing to make computers run faster, but without power, the data is lost. Various types of memories have been created to make up for this weakness. Storage devices such as the RAM, ROM, FROM, HDD all have their own strengths and weaknesses, and are used differently.
I see.
The memories RAM and ROM are also made of semiconductors. They have been progressing, just like the CPU. Early models in the 1970s had 8,000 bytes for the ROM and 160 bytes for the RAM. The size of the memory has become smaller, also like the CPU.
Is it 30 million times more compact?
Yes, it is, but the limit was reached. So, instead of making the memory smaller, the number is increasing by stacking on top.
Just like 3D games, it's evolved from plain storage to three-dimensional storage.
It started in about 2007, and now almost 100 layers are stacked. It is said that about 500 layers will be stacked by 2025.
So, multi-layerization also has doubled in 2 years.
That's right.
MINPRO.
Next, let's talk about input. Types of input devices include the keyboard, mouse, and sensors. With a personal computer or smartphone, most information is input with a keyboard, touch panel, or mouse. In a regular machine, though, the sensor is the key input device. There are various sensors, such as optical sensors and ultrasonic sensors used with robots. Other types include touch sensors, pressure sensors, electromagnetic sensors, temperature sensors, and gas sensors. Let's think about what kind of machine needs what type of sensor. For example, what types of sensors are used in a washing machine?
Well, the sensor to measure the amount of water.
That's right. What else?
In our first lesson, there was only a panel switch and water gauge.
You remember very well. Actually, there are many other sensors in the washing machine. These include a speed meter to check the speed of the motor, a light sensor to check the contamination of the water during washing, and temperature and humidity sensors used during drying.
Why do they use so many sensors?
It's because people want to do their washing quickly and cleanly. These days it's essential that the machine be friendly to the environment too.
How can a washing machine be friendly to the environment?
Well, if you wash your clothes in a way that uses the least amount of water and electricity and doesn't damage your clothes, there is no waste, and it's environmentally friendly.
I see. It's not to make a cooler deluxe washing machine.
But a washing machine with many sensors is a deluxe product.
The machine can do more things when it has more sensors, but it's also more expensive. Look at cars. They have many more sensors. The engine has a pressure sensor, exhaust gas sensor, and rotation sensor. The brakes have an oil pressure sensor, slip sensor. The steering wheel has an angle sensor and grip sensors. The body has a speed sensor, collision detector, fire detector, passenger detector, seatbelt sensor, the door open, close and lock sensors, gasoline level sensor, lamp burnout sensor, and a temperature sensor. And then, the car has cameras, ultrasonic sensors, and radars to confirm safety and enable autonomous driving.
It has radars? That's cool.
That's a lot of different sensor types. I wonder how many sensors are used in one car.
Well, the radars detect pedestrians and obstacles, even in the rain or at night, so that brakes are applied before hitting someone. Each car has about 50 to 100 sensors in total. How about a smartphone? What kind of sensors are used?
There's the touch sensor, optical sensor, camera, microphone, GPS, fingerprint sensor, what else is there?
Wait. Leave something for me to say.
There are still many sensors.
The accelerometer?
Many more. Think about the apps you use.
A direction sensor? I think there's a compass.
That's correct. Is there anything else?
I can't think of anything else.
The gyro sensor detects the tilting of the smartphone. You need it for games, right?
Oops, I forgot about it.
The proximity sensor closes unnecessary screens when you hold your smartphone to your ear during a phone call. So a smartphone has about 10 types of sensors. It's fun to see which app uses which sensor.
The pedometer uses the accelerometer, right? My dad told me.
That's right. When you move your smartphone sideways or upright, the screen follows your movement because the accelerometer is detecting the motion.
That's interesting.
Input devices, like the sensors, are used to know about you and your surroundings. That reminds me, a laser sensor is used when watching DVDs.
What? How does it use a laser beam?
The laser beam is shined on the DVD, and the optical sensor reads the reflected light. This generates the image data. It is saved in the memory, and the CPU shows it on the screen.
Doesn't a laser beam melt the DVD?
It's a really weak laser beam, so it's okay.
Aw shucks. I thought it was like a laser beam that destroys the enemy.
You don't need such a strong laser beam to watch a DVD. Plus, it is dangerous.
It is a weak laser beam, but it can seriously damage your eye if you look directly into it, so you have to be careful. DVDs have grooves in which many indents are lined up. Put simply, the presence of an indent represents the 0 and 1 of a binary. The laser beam is shown into the indents lined up in the groove that is about 1/1000th of a millimeter wide. The optical sensor reads the intensity of the reflected light.
That's a really narrow groove. The laser beam must be pretty narrow too.
That's right. The indents lined up in that groove pass by at a speed of 3.5 meters per second.
What if we think of the indents as 1-cent coins, like when we talked about the memory?
If 1/1000th of a millimeter indent is represented as a 1-cent coin with a 2-centimeter diameter, the 1-cent coin will pass by at a speed of 250,000 kilometers per hour. A rocket traveling to the Moon or Mars travels at a speed of about 40,000 kilometers per hour. So it's about 6 times faster than a rocket.
How can a 1-cent coin fly 6 times faster than a rocket?
This is past my imagination.
Isn't the world of computers fascinating? Lastly, we are going to talk about output devices. In a personal computer, these would be the display or speakers. In a robot, these would be the motor, lights, buzzer or speaker, and solenoids. In the future, there may be new output devices like artificial muscles.
How about a rocket engine?
It's an output device, too. Various engines used as drive devices are all output devices.
There aren't many types of output devices, are there?
The input device is decided by the type of information you want to know. The output device is decided by the state you want to achieve. Output devices up to now are ones that display, make sounds, move, and shine brightly, for example. An interesting new device is the 3D printer. While previous printers print on a flat surface, 3D printers create three-dimensional objects. There are various ways to use this new printer because they can make complex shapes, make objects one at a time, make samples, and even make objects to fit each person's body.
What kind of things can it make?
Well, they recreated the bones of a human ear that were crushed in an accident out of metal and successfully transplanted them.
That's amazing.
Devices that output information from computers to humans will probably change too. Right now, we use a flat display and speakers. In the future, we might be able to enter virtual spaces with 3D goggles and AI voices.
It's like games in a cartoon. It's fascinating.
It would be nice if more and more output devices beneficial for humans were invented. It might be fun to think about what kind of devices would be neat to have. A wide range of knowledge will come in handy.
So that's why MINPRO isn't only about programming?
It's a lot of work, but
You'll be okay. You'll find interesting things everywhere. Next time we'll talk about information services. I hope you'll come.
bye-bye.
See you soon.